So regardless how you landed on what your opinion of the game was going to be and who you had winning, there was a reason why the point spread was so small and stayed that way for the vast majority of the 2 weeks leading up to the game. That was a hell of a game last night. That was a fun game. Those two teams played their asses off. There's a lot of controversy coming out of that game, but we thought it might go this way as far as being a close game throughout or as far as being a close game when it was finally over with. And nonetheless, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid get it done. A second Super Bowl championship for Patrick Mahomes. But, of course, there is some complaining, some bitching and moaning going on from some people who don't like the call, the James Bradbury call. Nonetheless, the Kansas City Chiefs get it done. That second half was monstrous for them. Philly had it where they wanted it, but Patrick Mahomes strikes late, and the Kansas City Chiefs are your Super Bowl champions. How about it? How about those Chiefs?
How about them?
I mean, it's are they a dynasty yet, guys? I mean, how do we define the success and the track record that they've had so far with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. I think dynasty can be defined in a few different ways. I don't think that that's something you fit in a box. I certainly believe that you can look at their amount of success. It's been four times. What was it? 4 times in the playoffs and at the championship 5. Game. It's now 5.
Yeah.
I mean,
2 Super Bowls in 4 years. They've been to 3 in at least in the 5, if not that 4-year span, if I'm not correct.
Yeah.
I mean, how are we defining dynasty? Are we defining it by the frequency? Are we saying it based on? Because people said that Dallas was a dynasty and they got 3. You know,
I would put it this way: that no one's done what they've done so far. No one's made it to 5 straight AFC Championship games.
I would say this: if it ended right now and they never won another Super Bowl,
I'd be comfortable saying they're a dynasty.
Yeah, because if you just go back, if you could describe it as an era, the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid era, their run. Yeah. If you're talking about it after the fact, that to me is a dynasty. And
that's
so if we're going to be talking about whatever this is, if this is the last appearance for them in a Super Bowl, and who the hell knows, doesn't seem like it's going to be the way they operate together, then yeah, I think it's a dynasty.
They were overmatched against this Eagles team. And I said it coming into the game. If Patrick Mahomes, first of all, if the Chiefs are going to win this game, it's going to be because of Patrick Mahomes and the coaching. And if they do win this game, the conversation has to dramatically change. Well, not even dramatically, but it definitely changes for how you look at Patrick Mahomes. And that's what played out. So I wouldn't have a problem saying they're a dynasty, honestly. I think the half of a decade of success, the way that they've had it and the way they've played, I mean, hell, who wouldn't want to be a part of that team, you know? Right. Jeez, right. You saw how happy Juju was? I mean, who wouldn't want to be a part of this Kansas City organization? Shouts out to my boy Veach, too, by the way. They've overcome all odds, man. I mean, it played out the way you guys wanted it to. I mean,
think about what you just said too when you mentioned Brett Veach, their general manager. They had more rookies this year play snaps than any team in the NFL. That's got to be a scary sign for the NFL when you've got Patrick Mahomes under a long-term deal, and you've got all these other pieces that stepped up as rookies. You know, from Jalen Watson to Josh Williams to Brian Cook to George Karlaftis. I mean, you start kind of combing through it. Sky Moore, the young players they have, Trey Smith, guys they've drafted, Creed Humphrey on the offensive line, Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, these are all guys who are either a rookie this year or drafted recently. And you're saying to yourself, yeah, this is going to work for a long period of time. I mean, it's just they've done a tremendous job drafting, identifying who fits within what they need. As far as guys they've been able to develop too. I mean, Kadarius Toney couldn't make it work with the New York Giants. He seemed to have found a home with the Kansas City Chiefs and gave them a spark and a big play right when they needed it. So I look at this and I guess honestly, we could call it an era. Like I'm kind of second guessing myself and asking the question to you guys because. You mentioned Dallas, and then I was kind of thinking of the run that the Patriots has had. Well, like the Patriots' second run, where they had dominated the AFC East, they got to a bunch of AFC Championship games, but didn't necessarily win a bunch of Super Bowls, even though they got to them, kind of that middle point of Belichick and Brady in New England.
Yeah.
That era, like, I guess you can consider them a dynasty, but it wasn't as successful as the very beginning and then obviously the very end for Brady in particular. So I guess I look at it a little different, but I mean, look, right now, if you're like, I don't know what the betting odds are, Jonas, but you'd be betting on them to make the AFC Championship game next year, would you not?
Yes, I would feel comfortable betting on Kansas City to make an AFC Championship game for the rest of Patrick Mahomes' career.
So it's like Joe Burrow, the window is open as long as Pat is there.
Hell yeah.
I think here are my biggest takeaways from the Super Bowl. First one is, why did I bet against Patrick Mahomes when Patrick Mahomes beat the went against head-to-head the quarterback, the only quarterback that can beat him, with one leg? He went head-to-head and found a way to win against the only quarterback that really could beat him with one leg.
In your defense, though, did you, like, if you would have said, "Oh, someone's going to throw for 300 yards in this game, who's he going to be?"
Yeah,
I would have said to you, if it's not Patrick Mahomes, they're not winning.
Yeah, I just think that I thought that coming out of that Cincinnati game, they just didn't have much for Cincinnati, and it didn't look good, and they looked like they had a call that really assisted them making it out of that game. But with that being said, they were close enough to make it out of that game, and I probably should have taken that into bigger consideration. My second takeaway is, in the biggest game of the year, and correct me, or tell me I'm full of it or whatever, but the second takeaway I took from that game was, in the biggest game of the season, you cannot have an unforced error that leads to a touchdown. You just can't. Like, I'm sorry, you can fumble it, you can turn it over. You can't allow it to just be an unforced error where a team in the Super Bowl just walks into the end zone. Like, can't do it. And my third takeaway was, let's make it 4, because the third one is, you can't allow a major play to happen on special teams, especially in the most critical moment of the game. Right. It was too critical of a time to allow a shifting of the field and the way that they allowed it. And 4, I guess coaching really does matter. Like, I know you got to have a Patrick Mahomes, but the level and the class of coaching, they totally outclassed Philadelphia in that second half. I mean, the adjustments that they made at halftime were freaking phenomenal, and it showed on both sides of the ball, not just on offense and them scoring all the time. It definitely showed on what they were able to do defensively as well.
I thought it's an interesting point. I mean, going into the game, those are the two things I said most to you, is Patrick Mahomes ended the game. If they need to play, he could make it. And then the experience of Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, who I thought both of them, if you go back to talking about how if you would have put together a game plan for how Philly was going to win it, first half, the time of possession, in particular the way Philly was staying and converting third down, fourth downs, it felt like death of 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. Like, every time they got in that formation on fourth and short, third and short, you sat there and went, here they go again. They're just going to sneak in. They're going to push Hurts over the top, which, not to get off on a tangent now, but I told y'all, what was it, a few weeks ago about that play? That play will be reviewed by the competition committee. I would not be shocked or surprised if there's not a change that's made to it. It is too successful of a play. I think it puts too many players at risk with the way, and as we saw the close-ups with all the different camera angles, those guys are down there lunging at each other with their neck and head down. Eventually, there's going to be a bad injury. Eventually, someone's going to get hurt, and they're going to rethink the whole concept of that. I'm telling you right now, I cannot imagine they're going to allow that play to continue to exist. That being said, it was effective. Everything that Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen wanted to do was effective to a point. And then it became about the adjustments. And I really felt like Kansas City, you kind of felt like at halftime it was that line of demarcation But to me, it was more of just the way the game flowed to begin with. KC won the toss, deferred, and so they just didn't touch the football as much, right? Philly was going to be the team to eat up that clock and keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes. And then in the second half, when KC got the ball coming out of half, they went right down the field. But you still saw Philly eating up the clock. I mean, at one point we had 3 possessions and we were in the fourth quarter. I mean, it really was a game plan that I think played out for the most part how Philly wanted to, with a few moments and particular breakdowns. Defensively, the exact same play. Jonathan Gannon never made an adjustment. The touchdown pass to Kadarius Toney, the touchdown pass to Sky Moore, both of those plays were critical. And in both cases, all KC did was get them in a position where it looked like they were playing more of a form of quarters with the way they were doing it. They motion down the outside guy. It looks like he's going all the way across the formation. The corner bumps down. The safety looks to run and push to the opposite side. Meanwhile, the guy in motion then just runs right back out in the flat. And there's no one there because the safety thinks he's going to scream across the formation to take him on the other side. And so you look at that, and that happened twice.
It did.
And that's where, like, you've got to be able to make the in-game adjustments. And the inexperience of Jonathan Gannon, I think, showcased itself. The experience of Steve Spagnuolo and the rush that started to push Jalen Hurts out of the pocket to his left, shut down a lot of, they were better tackling, too, in the second half for KC. But all those things, I think, helped to mount to it. And then there's a controversial call, which I'll put it this way. The call's not controversial. It's not. That's defensive holding. You should call that 1,000 times out of 1,000. What's controversial is the timing of it.
There you go. That's the problem I had. I don't like my interpretation of that call was I'm going to wait and see if he's able to catch the ball. If he catches the ball, there's no flag. The fact that the ball was overthrown.
Maybe make a play on it, right?
Right. The ball was terribly overthrown. Mahomes was throwing it away. It was being thrown away. If you're going to make the call when it happens. You knew it was a hold. Because again, those types of holds take place every play. So if you're going to choose to throw the flag, I have no problem with you throwing the flag. It was a foul. It was the timing of it that was like, come on, man.